So when the weather's as horrible as it is outside today, what do I like to do? Come inside and film a video for you guys. So hello and yes, welcome back to another album review. Now then, this is an album review I've been promising for quite a while, and it is a review of Paul McCartney's Ram. This is an album which I actually reviewed quite a while back on my channel when I was just starting out. Didn't really know what I was doing too much. I was just kind of coming on here and saying, hey guys, I've heard this album and here's my thoughts. I was just doing it off the top of my head. I don't even think I went over each track individually. So I thought I'd come back, after re-kicking my album reviews recently, and after reviewing Paul McCartney's first album, this one here, I decided, I'm going to go in chronological order with McCartney. That kind of makes sense. Every other artist I'm doing, like I've done a couple Eric Clapton ones now, I've done a John Lennon one, I've done a bit of everyone. I've kind of gone, yep, okay, we're doing bits and bobs from their career, whereas with McCartney, I want to go straight. I want to go straight through, from beginning. I doubt I'll make it to the end, because he's got so many albums, but hey, fingers crossed I do. We'll go straight from the start to the end of McCartney's career. So we're going to go in chronological order. So what comes after McCartney's McCartney? Paul McCartney's? Couldn't guess it from the background, I'm going to hold the record up. Ram. So yeah, really exciting video here. So with this album review, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the usual. We're going to go over a bit of information about the album. We're going to go over each track individually. We're going to mark each of them tracks out of 10. We're going to take a look at my copy of the vinyl record, and then we're going to mark the artwork out of 10. And then when that's all done, we're going to add up all the scores I've given it, and that will give us an overall mark, which I will divide by the total number of scores given, and that will give us a total overall marking for this album. But we're not done there, because what we want to do is we want to head over to my album ranking board. We want to place it on there and see where it ranks compared to other albums. So yeah, there's a lot to do, so let's get started. So then, getting started with the information on this album. This was Paul's second solo album. Some people consider it not to be his second solo album, because Paul McCartney has so many different categories throughout his career. You have the solid solo McCartney, and technically the second solid solo McCartney album is McCartney 2. And then, of course, you have the Wings stuff, then you have the Fireman stuff, then you have the Paul McCartney and whatever orchestra he was working with in the 90s or the early 2000s. Then you have Paul and Linda McCartney, and this is their only album together. But anyway, I'm going to come back to Linda in a minute. This album was released on the 21st of May 1971. It hit #1 in 6 countries around the world, which I think is great for this album. I mean, it's a very unique album, and I think a very risky one. It was very different, I think. A very experimental album for Paul. So for it to hit #1 in 6 countries, I think is fantastic. One of those countries of which was right here in the UK, which is fantastic. Because his last album, McCartney, hit #2 in the UK, being beaten out by Simon & Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Waters. And in the US, Ram actually hit #2, which I think is kind of funny, because McCartney hit #1 in the US, hit #2 in the UK. Ram hit #1 in the UK and hit #2 in the US. So it's kind of like the scores just swapped around there, which I think is quite funny. But anyway, #2 still isn't a bad position. That's a great position for a great album here. Of course, it would have been good to see it get to #1 in the US, but oh well, #2's great. I mean, there are fantastic albums out there, other pieces of genius, which can't even crack the top 10. So I think #2, we've got to take it. That's a good number. And the album, of course, was reissued in 2012 with a huge archive box set deal, which you can see just here. I've done a video on this if you guys want to check it out. But, the album got the full treatment. It got so much, it really, Paul went so overboard, I feel, with the reissuing of this album. But I love the fact that he did, because this album deserved it. And it's nice that Paul's kind of picking up, people love this album, so I'm going to do a nice box set for them. So I think that's really good. The or the time period of when this album actually came out, however, just after the Beatles breakup, there's a lot of tension between band members, of course, especially between him and John, and I think that really kind of stacked with a certain song on this album, which we'll get to. And, yeah, I think, it's a you know, not the best time for Paul here, not the best time. But anyway, he managed to come out of this kind of darker period of his life and make us a fantastic album. So anyway, let's go back to Linda. Let's talk about Linda a bit. So this is the first album which features Linda. I mean, she had some backing vocals. She did a little bit on McCartney, but this is the first time Paul. And, you know, a lot of people, I've read an article online a couple of weeks back, actually. It said, an old article from back when his album came out, and it said, Linda's managed to screw her way into a solo Beatle record. And it's like, I don't think so. I think Paul actually was the one who probably encouraged it more than anything. And I salute him. I say, well done, Paul. I mean, how bad can Beatle wives be on albums? Get out of here, Yoko. Jeez. Oh, scared me. Anyway. Okay, so bringing your wives onto albums can sometimes be risky. Yeah, we got half a great album there and half a piece of crap. So anyway, you have to be careful, I think, when you're bringing people who you're in relationships with onto albums. Sometimes it can work brilliantly, Fleetwood Mac. Sometimes it can work horribly, John Lennon and Yoko Ono. So, you know, it's very risky move. However, Linda, I don't think she's the best lead singer. She can be okay. I've heard Wild Paris online a couple times. There's a couple songs on there which are okay. So she can she can pull off the lead singer occasionally. However, sometimes she can't. And a very famous song, of course, is Cook of the House, as we all know. Maybe not the best performance there from Linda, but you got to salute her for trying, and it was a fun, catchy song. So, yeah, I think lead singing wise, Linda can be very hit and miss. But anyway, she never tried to be a lead singer, really. She tried the odd couple times, but she's never really forced it down people's throat, unlike a certain someone who I just threw on the floor. But she's a fantastic backing singer, I think. Fantastic, as we will discover further on with this album. But anyway, let's get started on the tracks now. Let's dive straight in here. So the album opens up with a song called Too Many People. And before I actually talk about the song, let's get the backing story about this one right. So the lyrics are pretty random, really. I mean, you listen to it, too many people reaching for a piece of cake. I mean, the lyrics are kind of like, well, you know, just very random, very unique, I guess. However, there was a line, too many people practicing preachists or something like that. And, of course, that was a little dig at John and Yoko. And Paul would felt that, you know, John was trying to tell people in the public what they must do. And I, you know, kind of disagree with Paul a bit here. I think it was John just saying, you know, this is what John was saying. I think this is what people should be doing. You know, and John was absolutely right, really, in most cases, I think. As was Yoko here. So, you know, I salute John and Yoko here. I say, you know, I really respect what they were doing. They were musicians and they were coming out of their place to actually speak up about things they believed in, which I think was fantastic for musicians back then. However, Paul, you know, something didn't quite sit right with him about it. I think Paul felt that John went a bit overboard with it, which could be true. I don't want to put my opinion out there on that, really. And Paul basically said that line in this song, and that kind of set a spark off between him and John. A little bit of tension there. And, of course, John kind of come back with How Do You Sleep on Imagine, and a little postcard of John holding a sheep. Was it a sheep? I forget. No, it was a pig. It was a pig, sorry. Holding a pig, kind of taking the mickey out of the album cover to Ram. Which, I know back then it was probably pretty rotten of Paul to do this to John, and then John to do that back to Paul, but really, they ended on good terms, you know, which was good. I'm pleased they did. And really, you look back at it now as fans, and you think, oh, two little school kids, really, just kind of going at each other a bit. So anyway, you know, there's that part of the song. Anyway, let's move on to the actual song itself, because really that doesn't concern us with the album. Because here I want to look mainly at the music itself. And the music itself on this track is brilliant. This is a brilliant song. Opens fantastically with this great guitar. Paul kind of singing this weird line down the mic. Brilliant vocals from Paul, going through a lot of different ranges. Linda does a great job on the backing vocals, absolutely great job. So for those people who hate Linda, no, I'm sorry, she does great backing vocals. She was great on this album, I feel. Has a great guitar solo in it, and in the end, it is a classic McCartney song here. And for that reason, this track is going to get a 10 out of 10. This is a great song. Then we move on to the track Three Legs, which is a much slower, less heavy song. But this one is quite interesting, I feel. The lyrics are very random here, you know. Most flies, they have 4 legs, but mine has 3 or something like that, you know. I can't remember the lyrics off the top of my head, but, you know, the lyrics are very random again here. But fun and catchy. Great vocals from Paul again, fantastic. I love the chorus part where Paul does some very strange vocals here. I mean, Paul's always known to do these kind of soft vocals, which, you know, going into his 80s stuff, you can really hear through albums. Pipes of Peace, Tug of War, Press to Play. He always kind of does these very similar vocal arrangements, which are great because they sound amazing. But it's nice to see Paul experimenting a bit here with his vocals, which sound really good. Bit strange at times, but still really good. And I really do like the song Three Legs. It kind of tones the album down a bit from a nice kind of classic fun song like Too Many People. And it's a good song. Not perfect, I wouldn't say, but very good. So I'm going to get it as close to a 10 as I can. So I'm going to give this track a 9 out of 10. Then we get the track Ram On, which of course is what the album is kind of titled off. And it has a nice piano opening, and then you can hear one of the producers say, okay, take one, and you can hear Paul go, okay. So it's kind of like you can actually hear them in the studio there getting ready to record, which I think is a nice touch. You know, it kind of adds to the album a bit. And then, of course, it opens with a nice little ukulele, which probably was inspired by George Harrison there. We all know what a fantastic ukulele player he was. And Paul, you know, probably was like, yeah, I want to get a bit of that on one of my albums, actually. So that was really nice. Paul has these brilliant slow vocals on it, really good. And I love the instruments that build on through this song. However, this is probably one of the weaker tracks on the album for me, because it doesn't, after the instruments come in and start to build on the song really doesn't go too much further itself, I find. It's still a really good song, I really like it. It's a little bit shorter than I'd liked it to have been. But it's a fun song. It's definitely a very good song. So I say that 5 is the middle line. A 5 is an average mark. Anything below a 5 is bad. Anything above a 5 is good. So I'm going to give it a 7. I mean, it's not as high as the previous 2 tracks, of course, but it's still a good mark. So I do like that song. And then we move on to a track called Dear Boy, which is quite a popular one among fans on this album. For me, though, I still really like the song. I don't want to sound too negative. But it's definitely not one of the standout tracks for me on this album. The song lyrics are quite good. You know, he wrote this while on holiday in Mullikintyre. It's about how Paul feels he was so lucky to get with Linda, of course. He's basically singing about how lucky he feels that Linda's in his life. It's a nice piano kind of ballad sounding one at the start, with very interesting vocals from Paul. Of course, Linda comes in and does these incredible backing vocals again. I mean, this is probably the best song for Linda. I think this is where she shines the most on this album. And, yeah, vocals are really good. Great guitar work on it. Love the piano, especially. However, I feel the vocals get a bit messy near the end. Just a little bit, just a teeny bit. Get a little bit messy near the end. A bit too overboard, I think, on all the backing vocals. However, it's a good song. I really like it. I'm going to give this track an 8 out of 10. It's a really good one. And now we really hit the brilliant part of the album. And I mean, the whole album is brilliant overall, really. But this is where you just get classics after classics. The first track up here is called Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey, which is kind of like a mini medley. In an interview that I was watching of Paul a while back, he actually described that how bits of this medley come to him during the Abbey Road session, and then he kind of took them further into his solo career by putting them onto this album here, Ram, which I think is quite cool. The lyrics are about his uncle, who he actually was really fond of, and, you know, Paul had a very interesting childhood, like all these great musicians like John Lennon and Eric Clapton and George Harrison. You know, they all kind of had these very kind of rough childhoods, which is why they all deserved so much to, you know, get where they got in life. But anyway, you know, this Uncle Albert of his, I'm not sure if Albert was his actual uncle, might have been. I'm sure someone's going to let me know in the comments. But he was very fond of him. It's a very nice song directed at him. The Admiral Halsey part is just a kind of little fluke on the end kind of thing, which sounds fantastic. And Admiral Halsey being an American admiral. Don't think he had anything to do with Paul. I think he was dead before Paul even got famous, to be honest. But anyway, you know, I love how Uncle Albert starts. It's not a dark song, but it's quite dark for this album. It's a slow, little, you know, very, you know, a bit depressing kind of start to it. You know, we're so sorry, bum bum. You know, it's kind of feels a bit, you know, a little bit depressing at times. But it works so well because the first 4 tracks have been very fun and upbeat. It's nice to kind of tone the album down a little bit. But then he puts these little parts in it which make you feel a little bit more, you know, it kind of picks the song up, lighter moments, I'll say. It has some lighter moments in it. And I love the sound effects which he added of like the thunder and stuff and the rain coming down. And then I love how the transition part where it goes into Admiral Halsey, which is a much more fun song. Linda's vocals are great in the transition part, and then, you know, the part where Paul just does his little singing part alone in Admiral Halsey is fantastic. This is a 10 out of 10 track. It is a great song. And closing side 1, Admiral Halsey then kind of fades into Smile Away. So you kind of get Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, and then Smile Away all kind of connected. It connects through this guitar riff, which I actually don't like the sound of much, but it's like 4 seconds long, so I'm not going to let it influence my score here, because I love Smile Away. This is a brilliant song. I love the rawness to the song. The guitar riffs are brilliant. The guitars sound fantastic. The backing vocals from Linda are great. Brilliant guitar solo in it as well. The lyrics are, again, simple but fun. And I love the song's mood at the end. You know, when he does the... Paul kind of tells you how the mood is. It's like... I like that. It's like we could have been able to tell the mood without him saying it, I think, because he done it so well. But just the fact that he tells us away, it's like, okay, we're going to smile away sweetly now, and the song will pick up with a nice kind of little bit more bouncy feel. Smile away quietly now. We go, really get all quiet, and it'll go smile away horribly, and then all of the instruments will come in, and I love that. That was brilliant. That was Paul doing some of his best work right there, I think. That was genius. I loved it. That is a 10 out of 10 song. Kick-ass song. I love it. Brilliant. And then we move on to side 2 of the record. And it opens with a track called Heart of the Country. Nice little Paul on acoustic. I think Paul on acoustic, that's where you get the best McCartney, really. He shines on an acoustic. He can really make these beautiful songs. And this is one of them beautiful acoustic songs. I loved Pure McCartney. I thought that was a brilliant compilation. But it'd be nice to see a compilation released of Paul at his best on either acoustic or a nice ballad compilation. You know, you could make so many compilations with Paul. We'd all be sick to death of them, probably, if they made all the ones I'm saying right now. But it would be fun to see, you know, an acoustic compilation, because this song would have to be on there. It's a really nice, fun song, really great. Lyrics are about him, you know, his time at Mullikintyre on his little holiday. Fantastic. I really am lost for words with this song a bit. I've always loved this. This has always been a personal favourite of mine. Well, I'm not sure I'd say it's my favourite track on the album now, but I've always had a very soft spot for this song, and I really do love it. This is a 10 out of 10 track. Okay, before we go any further, I am going to have a drink so I can feel my voice going. And if I carried on the way I was, my voice would be gone in about 5 minutes. Okie dokie. Let's continue. Now we get a track called Monkberry Moon Delight. Yeah, that's a song. Anyway, by the title, everyone's probably like, okay, this is going to be one of them really strange ones, I bet. It is a bit strange. It is a bit creepy. It is a bit scary at times, but it is incredible. Another incredible track. Really heavy song. Raw vocals from Paul, and I mean raw. You can tell he was kind of struggling at times in the song, but he lets it all out. It's a fantastic song. The lyrics are very random lyrics. I tried to analyse them in preparation for this video, but I really couldn't because they were very random, but I love them. They're great. The backing vocals from Linda are great. I love everything about this song. I do. It is a perfect song again. Another perfect song. Another 10 out of 10. Believe it or not, I think that's the first time it's ever happened in my reviews. I've got 4 10 out of 10 tracks in a row. I mean, Admiral Halsey, Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, 10 out of 10. Smile Away, 10 out of 10. Heart of the Country, 10 out of 10. Monkberry Moon Delight, 10 out of 10. All 4 of them tracks, wouldn't change a thing about them. Perfect songs, love them. Then we move on to a track called Eat at Home, which is where the 10 out of 10 streak breaks. But only just. Again, another fantastic track. Great guitar riff in it. Has a fantastic mood throughout the whole song. The lyrics are pretty simple again, but I love the chorus part. You know, that's where the vocals and the lyrics really pick up for me. You know, the first couple verses, you know, they don't do too much for me. I mean, they're fun to listen to. They're really enjoyable, but they're not anything amazing, I don't think. But as soon as you hit the chorus, the song really gets good for me. Amazing guitar solo in it near the end as well. The song really develops a lot through the chorus, I think. This is a great song, almost perfect for me. Just something about the first couple verses. I mean, it's good, but I don't know. You know, he does the come on little lady, let's eat at home part, and he does that twice. And he does it again twice, but he changes home to bed, let's eat in bed. And I think maybe if they cut down a couple verses of that, the song actually would have worked a bit better for me, personally. I know some people can disagree, sorry. But for me, that's personally how I feel about the song. But I love it. It's a great song still. I don't have, it really, that's only a teeny minor flaw, really. There's not really anything wrong with it, to be honest. But I am going to give this track a 9 out of 10. Not quite a 10, but very close, very close. Then we get to a track called Long-Haired Lady, which is an interesting start, where Paul does this, well, maybe a little bit of a spoof. I think I've heard anyone say this, but what came to my mind just then was John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band, well. So anyway, maybe a little bit of a spoof on that song. But anyway, starts off with a very interesting sound to it, I think. Has some really good bits in it, I find. I love the part. I love the end to it, you know, where they do they go through this kind of very interesting part where they say love is long, love is love kind of thing. You guys know what I'm talking about. And that gets really good. I think this is a really good song, but not one of my favourites. Not one of my favourites. I'm going to give this track an 8 out of 10. Then we move on to another version of Ram On, which I think they should have just called it Ram On Revisited, because it really is exactly the same. They just give it a different ending. And I do like the ending a lot, actually. I do think it's really good. So I think it was definitely worth Paul putting it out there, but I think it would have worked better as a song on the bonus material of the reissue. Obviously, Paul didn't know back then that that was going to happen, this reissue series, but I think it would have worked a lot better on them. I really like the part at the end where they go, where they kind of hint at the track Big Barn Bed. And I don't think it was intentional back then that Paul would bring the line that he used at the end, who's that coming round the corner. I don't think it was intentional that he knew he was going to bring that back 2 albums later. But I really like the fact that he did, because it kind of makes Ram and Red Rose Speedway feel connected. And they're quite similar albums, I feel, and I love them both. So I really like that. But the song itself overall, I like the ending. But it feels very pointless on the album, I feel, and yeah, I'm going to give this track just a 5. It's just an average little song. It's only like 30 seconds long anyway, so I'm just going to give it a 5. I don't want to be harsh on it. Don't want to give it under a 5, because I don't feel there's anything bad about it. But I don't want to give it above a 5, because I really feel it's quite pointless. So anyway, that's my opinion on that song. Then we get to the closing track, Backseat of My Car. And I really don't know how to talk about this song, because this is probably the most popular track on the album. It's fantastic. It goes through so many phases. The lyrics are basically just about, you know, Paul singing about, you know, coming home after taking a girl out somewhere. And, you know, kind of explaining himself to the girl's dad kind of thing. This is a great song. It has so many different phases. I love how the song ends. It's 10 out of 10 track, definitely. But anyway, here is the album itself. I'm going to hurry along a bit now, because I can see we're at 22 minutes. I love the album cover. Fantastic, incredible. I love the actual photo part of it. And then, of course, he's kind of, looks like he's coloured it in with a felt tip in the background. And then we got L-I-L-Y, Lily. I think that's meant to be Linda, I Love You. I think that's what that stands for there. But anyway, I think this is my French pressing, I think. Yeah, I do have the original British one just here. And here's my archive double vinyl, as you can see with the strip. I've got the double CD pack here. I've got the archive box set here. Ram in mono just behind. And then the instrumental version of Ram Thrillington on vinyl up there. So yeah, I'm all set on this album really. The back cover, really like it. The only thing I wish that they put some form of track listing on the back. But it doesn't matter, because when we open up the gatefold we get it. And it's a really nice gatefold. But again, this side of the album kind of feels a bit empty. They've covered this side with so many cool pictures, and this side's just like, there's the tracks. Really like the album artwork though. I'm going to give the album artwork an 8 out of 10. Really cool, really like it. Very creative, which fits the album 100%. As I say, this is my French pressing. So we got the Apple label there. And we got the half apple on the back. So anyway, now what I've done is I've added up all of the scores I've given each track. And the album artwork score. Divided it by the total number of scores given. Which has given me an overall marking for this album out of 10. And this album is going to get out of 10 for me an 8.8. So close to a 9. Anyway, I feel very confident in that. I really feel this album deserves that score. It's a fantastic album. Easily one of Paul's best, if not maybe his best. I'm not sure. He's got so many good ones. It's kind of hard to say. But anyway, great album. Linda was fantastic on it. Paul's amazing on it, of course. But anyway, now what we got to do, of course, is we've got to head over to the album ranking board and see how well it does compared to other albums. So anyway, of course, here we are over with the album ranking board. And as you can see, here's my little slip. Oh, hang on. Blue text peeling back a bit too much. Paul McCartney, Ram, 8.8 there on the end. So doing very well, coming in all the way up here. So anyway, I know the camera's not going to pick it up. So, the only two albums have beaten it, and that is Eric Clapton's Back Home on a 9.2, and Derek and the Dominoes' Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs on a 9.4. But it has managed to beat out Mudcrutch's Mudcrutch on an 8.5, Eric Clapton's I Still Do, Mudcrutch 2, Peter Gabriel 1, Lindsey Buckingham, Paul McCartney's first album there on a 7.0, so as you can see, huge improvement. Phil Collins, George Harrison there with 33 and a third, quite low down. Phil Collins' Face Value, the Electric Light Orchestra, No Answer, and then under a 5 in the kind of bad section, we've got The Who, Face Dances, and all the way down here, can't even see it, is John Lennon and Yoko Ono Sometime in New York City. So, Ram over John? Yeah, I think it beat it a little bit. So anyway, that is it for this video, guys, of course. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, of course, and we'll come back for another video soon enough on this channel, I'm sure. And maybe another album review soon as well. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, like the video, and leave a message. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.